Welcome to the Wandering Tangent Podcast. I'm BJ. With me is Jeff and Gary. Today we're going to talk about the 1942 romance drama Casablanca.
Okay, neither of you had seen this movie, right?
No,
is
actually,
a first time watch, right? No, Gary, you've seen it,
no,
yeah?
I've seen it before.
I had not, so I am the outlier here.
Yeah, there are once you finally see this movie, there are so many references to it that just stand out because this movie is highly quoted, and
So often incorrectly, because no one ever actually says play it again, Sam.
No, they don't. There's an implication, but they never actually say that.
all right. So,
And
BJ, what did you think of it?
I liked it. So we end up watching this one after a shall we say a failed series of ideas of what to do for Valentine's Day-ish kind of things, because I think this is the first straight up romance movie we've done.
Yeah, and that's
Can't
not
think of
really a
else.
typical movie for us. We're more of the Godzilla monster film type, crazy sci-fi stuff, but a romance movie is not something that would normally be on our radar. But I think it's healthy for us to want to do this now. But
Jeff, tis the season.
Tis the season.
Tis the season for romance.
Happy as the token bachelor here. Happy Singles Awareness Day to everyone.
Singles Awareness Day.
Other.
Okay. Now,
people go through different holidays, apparently.
So, and then actually,
Valentine's
before
Day.
we get too far, because I don't want to forget to do this. Speaking of building healthy relationships, Gary.
yes, okay.
I believe a apology was requested by your significant other. So please, the floor is yours.
A specific apology was requested. Now, admittedly, an apology is owed as well. It's not just that she requested it, it is owed. So, I said last time that my wife went and saw the...
Last time being the underwater episode.
Yes, last time on the underwater one. So, so I implied that my wife went and saw Aquaman because she wanted to see Jason Momoa. She did not. She went because her mother wanted to go see the movie, and I'm looking for the exact wording.
You have to be careful with the
She
wording.
likes to see superhero movies, and my mother-in-law really likes to see superhero movies as well. But she did not go to see specifically because it was Jason Momoa. Maybe my mother-in-law did, but not my wife. And she took offense to me implying that was her sole reason for going. I would like to apologize to her. I know that she does not. She's not really attracted to Jason Momoa.
So he's just laughing because
He probably comes home from work every day smelling like fish. I mean, really.
He really probably does.
How could women like that? How?
I honestly don't understand it. But, sorry, wife.
Are we talking about Aquaman or Jason Momoa?
Yes.
Yes.
We think Jason Momoa comes home from work every day smelling of fish, even when he's not playing Aquaman?
He had to do a full day of shooting, of filming, with CGI fish somehow.
So
I know, he's a method actor. He needs man, give me some fish smell, quickly.
So as
Jeff,
such, because he played Aquaman, he is gonna forever come home smelling of fish, even when he's not playing Aquaman.
Jeff, if you've ever seen Aquaman, I can tell you for certain there's not a lot of actual acting going on in this movie.
Okay.
I have actually not seen I think the only DC movie I've seen last however many years was Wonder Woman.
You're
That was
not
a good
missing
one.
much.
Wonder Woman. Yeah. That was
Yes, indeed, a
kind of
good
good,
one.
I guess. It was goodish.
It was pretty good.
It was all right.
Yeah, you're not missing much.
Anyway, so
Okay.
So once again, we are talking about other movies.
since we're in the season of love, apparently we wanted to make sure that
Make sure
Gary's relationship with his wife was
We're repaired, mended.
was protected.
Yeah, he made restitution for his
Given-
on-air actions.
given that
She
she
pointedly
is
was not angry about being called middle-aged. She was pointedly angry about the implication of
fandom of Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa. Yes. So
Also, given that she's a significant percentage of our listener base, we definitely do not want to offend our listeners.
Okay.
at least not the ones we interact with.
I mean, that happens with entertainment. Is sometimes you offend the entertainers offend the people being entertained by their cruel and callous nature, and I do not wish to go down that road because I am not the super multi-mega millionaire, and also most especially since the audience in particular is someone who's very near and dear to my heart.
Well, I don't think we have to worry about insulting most of our audience. It's it's not like we're getting paid for this or anything.
That is true.
Well,
We don't
I
have enough
actually,
audience to worry about that.
I just want to say, I actually want to agree that I think most women wouldn't want Aquaman or like Aquaman. They probably would like Batman more because he's more dark and mysterious and has all his own gadgets, and he has a bat cave, and he's rich. I mean, he's kind of like everything women would want. They should like Superman because he's good and he has all this power, but I think maybe he's too much of a good person. They like a little bit of the dark, sinister, maybe like deeply disturbed and twisted, broken from his past sort of thing, like an injured creature you need to repair and fix. Yeah. Speaking of Valentine's Day.
Jeff over here I'm just dreaming up Batman's picking up like, hey baby, I had a traumatic childhood and I have a bat cave.
Want to take a ride in the Batmobile?
For the Batmobile?
That's not how he would say it. You want to take a ride in the Batmobile? How does Batman talk now? It's like it's different.
I mean, like maybe the Adam West Batman would have been like, hey.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Casablanca.
Gary's like uncomfortable with this conversation now.
Let's get back
We
to...
have a time limit today, so of course we tangent immediately.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Gary, Casablanca.
What do you think, Gary? Give us your non-spoiler brief review of it.
Non-spoiler brief review. So how to explain it? I don't I get why this is a famous movie. It's got all of the quotable lines. It's got some really good acting and really great storytelling in it. I don't
There's
get
a but ...
I
Go ahead,
don't
we
Gary.
find the movie that I liked and Gary didn't before we find the movie I liked and Jeff didn't?
Gary,
what's
spit it
going
out.
on here?
Did you not
No,
like Casablanca?
I
Don't be
don't
afraid to be the
see
outlier,
what
Gary.
I don't.
You were waiting for Cthulhu to show up at some point in
No.
the story, right?
It's not like So here's the thing. I wanted to like this movie more than I actually ended up liking it, because it's one of those. It's a classic, but I realized that I have to be forced to watch this movie in order to watch this movie. I can't. Under normal circumstances, I can never really justify myself just sitting down and watching this movie because I enjoy it. So I can't really say that On my scale of enjoying movies, it's not even something that I can sit down and watch because it's on. It's just like I have to there has to be a reason for me to watch this movie Does that make any sense at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you just don't like it. You can just say it, Gary.
You could say,
like,
it's painful to say those words, but I don't like a classic film that most people like. I don't like it.
When I'm sitting there, I'm
just come out and
enjoying.
say it.
When I'm sitting there, I'm enjoying watching this movie, and after I've watched it, I'm like, this was a good movie, but it's like.
So you like the movie itself, but it's not something you would seek out and watch yourself.
Yeah, maybe it's like a kid. You know how a kid you sit a kid down. Jeff sympathizes with this a lot more. You sit a kid down, and they've got a plate, and they've got the veggies in front of them, and they have to eat the veggies, even though when they actually start eating the veggies, they're gonna be like, "Ooh, these taste good," and they munch their way happily through it. You know that the next time you set them down you set them down to eat this plate of veggies, they're going to bring up the same old complaints again, like, veggies again. And you're just like, I'm that way. I'm that kid. I am that kid with that plate of vegetables.
I cannot identify with that metaphor at any point because even as an adult, I've not gotten to the point where like, veggies. I'm like, I'm going to eat these first because they're good for me, and I'm going to eat the good stuff to cleanse my palate.
Yeah, now, I know Casablanca is a good
Speaking of this
movie.
metaphor.
Okay.
Yeah, well, speaking of this metaphor, yes, Casablanca is a delicious, healthy salad of a movie. It's not a bag of greasy potato chips or, a whole tray filled with very sugary desserts or some other kind of food that you really desperately want to eat all the time. It's not like that, but here's the trick. You eat these healthy meals, these healthy movies, it will make you feel better later. If you, okay, maybe not in our case, because we could just watch Godzilla movies till the end of time, but in theory, these kind of movies that maybe make you a little teary-eyed, maybe not to us callous people, but to some people it would, they're positive. I mean, this does have a positive message. I'll just go with my review right now. But yeah, okay. I think this is a very, very great positive message of a movie that is, people call it a romance, but I'd almost say it's more like a heartbreak movie. It's not a romance so much as it's about a romantic cataclysm of sorts. It's a romantic tragedy. Not so much of that, but even though it's a romantic tragedy, there's a sweet part to it that really helps you take something special away from the movie. So it's good. It's especially a great movie to watch if you have a girl you want to impress with your prowess and for movie selection. Pick that one. Sit her down and watch it with you. It'll have a great emotional effect on her. And make you look better because you're great at selecting old classic movies like this. Go ahead.
So I will say that, well, I guess in this case it's more of an outlier, but the more I think about it, the more Godzilla -1 has kind of ruined the rest of the Godzilla movies for me. Because you can't really say anymore, we just like Godzilla movies. I'm like, there was a pretty good romance in Godzilla -1.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So, Godzilla -1 has ruined me. I am forced to hold Godzilla movies to a higher standard now. But anyway, Gary, you're going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, Jeff, are we getting into spoiler territory because you're saying details about this movie? All right. Spoiler.
Some things. But yeah, let's say spoilers are in. Let's talk about
this 80-year-old movie that everybody's already heard half the plot of,
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to go first? Okay, can I just say, one of the things I really like about this movie is this place. It's in this faraway place called Casablanca, this city in Morocco.
This hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, it's like Mos Eisley spaceport.
I
The funny thing, it's such a classy place. And
well, the parts we see of it are classy.
true. You don't see the other parts of the city that are more ancient, but the this
It is
entire
pretty well
movie,
implied it's not really a great place because most characters are trying to get out of there.
in the 1940s, people went out to clubs and they dressed nice and they listened to live music and they socialized and they ate meals that were small and they'd sit around in their very nice clothing and just talk. And that whole world, I don't think exists anymore at all.
I was gonna say, honestly, Jeff, with how much I knew, that sounds like a nightmare from your perspective.
I know.
I have to go outside, I have to talk to people,
I don't get to wear
nice.
sweats or pajamas. I have to go in a crowd. I know, that's what makes this movie so weird to me, is this is a very alien world with all these people living like this, and they don't have audio files where they could just play music from a disc or stream it, and you could just have whatever music they want. In the 1940s,
they had records.
But records, I'm going to be honest, they sound scratchy and not so great, and a lot of them were mono. And so...
Why did my records have high-def audio back in the 1940s?
My point is if you wanted in the 1940s to listen to some really good music, you had to go to a club. You had to listen to a real band. You had to, and which is the best way to listen to music of all. It beats out any kind of technology, in my opinion.
We had records, and we had radio. These Stone Age primitives had to go outside and listen to music.
Point is that world disappeared, and I think technology might be a little bit a part of it, and then also a cultural change. We don't dress fancy anymore like that. I mean, back then it was expected that you had to wear your tuxedo and fancy, bow tie as you go out.
Not a tuxedo all the time.
Not all the time, but you had to dress nice.
So, I don't know if you caught this. So, Sam... so there's the story centers around the man Rick played by
Rick
Humphrey
Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart, and then his relationship with what's her name?
Elsa,
played by Ingrid Bergman. Yes. So Rick is the owner of a club. Kind of a...
Called Rick's?
Yeah, called Rick's. Rick's Club Americana.
Club Americana?
Yeah.
I'm just over here being Gary Dole the punches. Yeah.
So Rick's Club Americana, I don't know if you caught this, but a significant percentage of his profits goes to said entertainer, that being Sam. The 25%
famous... of the house
10%.
Yep.
Something along those lines.
So at the end of the movie, when Rick is selling his club to the other guy, he tells him that Sam gets 25% of the cut, and the guy says, I know for a fact that he gets 10%, but he's worth 25.
So
anyway,
Mr. Sam is actually probably a fairly wealthy man in and of himself, even though he does the line of the other guy tries to buy him out, and then Sam says, I don't have enough time to spend the money you pay me, Mr. Rick. So Sam is he's a character. I think he sticks with Mr. Rick he sticks with Rick for reasons other than money, which is kind of nice. I'm guessing they have a
history,
old history with each other.
Well, he really is the glue that holds a lot of the story together, because when the audience is learning about the relationship between Rick and Elsa, it's Sam that comes in, and the way that Sam interacts with them, you can tell that there's a deep history here, and he's very protective of Rick, his friend, and of Elsa. He wants peace. He wants people to get along. He knows that it's going to cause heartbreak for the two of them to come back into each other's lives. And, yeah. So in many ways, he puts a lot of the connected parts to this story together, Sam.
He also, there's a song that he's never allowed to play, and he plays that song.
Yep.
And Rick is like, why are you playing that song? It's because she told him to play it. And then, you know, poor Sam's just caught in the middle. He knows that if he doesn't, he'll ruin one friendship, and if he does, he might ruin another friendship. So, anyways. But yeah, so we've
said song being As Time Goes By, as originally written by Herman Hupfeld in 1931.
So the setting for all of this, though, is Casablanca, and it's in unoccupied... It is an unoccupied French colony in Africa.
Territory
in Africa. So because technically France at this time is colonized by America.
Occupied?
Is occupied by...
Wait, what?
No. Sorry.
Gary's giving us our great history lesson.
Sorry.
And then the Beatles came to Africa and established a new musical...
The Beatles invaded America. America colonized France.
Sorry.
America colonized France.
I'm getting mixed.
Is this like some weird Hearts of Iron game? What's going on?
Okay.
He's been reading Warhammer.
Sorry,
so much.
I'm getting.
Okay,
weird.
backtrack.
So there's an American. I'm trying to reestablish. Okay, sorry guys. So we've got France, which is occupied by the Germans. We've got this unoccupied,
half of France, and that's
unoccupied French colony in Africa,
Morocco.
And so technically it's still not under Germany, even though
it's actually a neutral country, because a lot of people don't know this, but in World War II, when France surrendered, Germany, part of the agreement is Germany didn't occupy the entire country. They actually split it into two different sections. There was the Vichy government, which was in northern France, and the Germans occupied it. They had soldiers there and everything. They ran things. That was the area of the country they needed to invade England, so they kept that. But they didn't really want to police the entire French domain, because that would be a lot of effort. So most of France remained neutral. They were a government that couldn't get involved in the war. They stayed neutral, and they probably had to really schmooze the Germans and stay on their good side. And I don't know all the history, but that's kind of the setting now in Morocco, because Morocco is a French colony at this point. And so even though they're independent from the Germans, as part of that agreement that they made, they still are trying to keep the Germans on the good side. And as you can see that, yeah.
Kind of, that's epitomized by the character of, is it Captain Louis, played by Claude Rains. That guy who's he's kind of the French government official.
Captain Renault.
Captain Louis Renault.
So just on the fly fact check here. I think you're kind of correct, Jeff. I'm looking at a map of occupied France. So it's split up into an occupied zone, which is that's the northern France. That's where Paris and all that is. Then there's the free zone, which was controlled by the
Vichy government.
Vichy.
I thought the Vichy government was in the north, but maybe I'm getting that backwards.
Yeah, it's the other way around. So they were technically free, but it was more or less a puppet government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't really know the legal implications if they really had the rights to to
No,
not follow what the Germans said when they were told to do.
no,
I don't
it
know.
was basically a German puppet state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Technically not Germany, but actually Germany, or at least German ruled.
kind of this was made in 1942, kind of a ballsy film to be making at the time because
Yeah.
the outcome of the war was still like it wasn't finished, even though I mean probably most of the people saw the writing on the wall, but still it's like it's kind of an interesting movie. On the other hand, it does speak to defiance. There's a lot of themes of defiance when it's not talking about love. It's talking about defiance of the Germans. So,
yeah. And this movie probably was a propaganda film from that time because it's very much an anti-German theme to it.
You've got the French who are standing defiantly. You've got the
yeah, it's about
Humphrey
people
Bogart,
trying to escape.
Who's kind of this reluctant person pulled into the middle of all of this. But you see he's got a deep heroic core during multiple times in the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would call it like a propaganda film because propaganda films are like nuanced.
There's propaganda that's under the surface. The fact that it was. I think that it's not the main point. The main point is to have this romance story. That's the main point of the movie. But the undertones of it are anti-oppression, anti-German.
It's like it's a movie of its time.
Yeah,
it has the themes of its time, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. Like people call things like propaganda films. I think that's.
Yeah, propaganda is usually a little bit more heavy-handed.
There's not very many well-thought-of propaganda films, shall we say.
Yeah, it's usually a little bit more heavy-handed in what it's doing. Yeah. It's not very subtle about what it is. Whereas this movie is very, very subtle with everything. Just about everything except for the poor treatment that Mr. Rick Blaine gets. Because he does not... He doesn't get the super happy ending, even though he gets the ending that he wants, sort of. Because he made the choice.
Not really, but...
Well, he gets a better ending than he was expecting, at the very least.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Rick. Yeah, this is an interesting guy because the first time you see him, he's... the first part that they introduce you to Rick is when he doesn't save a person that's in trouble. Also, you see that he tells this German banker that he can't come into the exclusive part of his club. You can tell that first off that he's very anti-German. He's against all those radicals in Europe during this this very difficult time. But then you learn a little bit later, as somebody comes to him and gives him these 2 visas that are very precious legal property. He gets in trouble, and he doesn't save him. He really couldn't have saved him. But then he gives the line, "I stick my neck out for no one." So he's kind of introduced as somebody who's not just a nice person. He's really more trying to protect himself and just trying to survive. He's not trying to be a hero at all.
Yeah, so at this point, he is playing it very politically neutral. He doesn't necessarily like the Germans or the Nazis. I guess that's a pretty...
It's pretty obvious he doesn't like them, but he's trying to be at least political with them.
Yeah, he's not drawing any lines because... Yeah.
I mean, if you look at America just a few years before this was exactly the position that they were taking. Just a few years prior to the release of this movie, that was the position they were taking until they were pulled into the war. They were, we'll give you minor amounts of help, but we're not going to, join any sort of war to stop anybody.
Yeah, this is, I believe the movie is set before the U.S. enters the war, so they are technically neutral, even though they are supplying England and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does give a date towards the end. It's 1941 is when this story happens.
So we've got Rick. We've got Ilsa. Let's talk a little bit more about her. So she's introduced.
They don't really give a lot of background information on Ilsa.
Apart from the fact that her and Rick were in a whirlwind romance previous to this, right?
Yeah.
They were in a whirlwind romance right before France was occupied by Germany, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They were. Yeah. Rick had a club in Paris, and they had as Gary phrased it, a whirlwind romance while there, right before Germans occupied France.
And then she disappears as he's escaping to get to Africa. She disappears, and leaves him to escape on his own, and she doesn't explain why, right?
Well,
No, she gives
as part of this whirlwind romance, they keep saying, okay, we're not going to ask any questions about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she really had to. You don't really understand this story until finally towards the end of the movie. The whole time, you get pieces along the way. And it's actually really well written that way. Because at the beginning, who you think is the good person and who you think has been jilted, it changes throughout the entire thing. Because at first, you learn that she abandoned him and ran away and dumped him. And he's heartbroken about that because he was deeply in love with her. And she was like the love of his world in a sense. And then he loses her so abruptly. Like he didn't see it coming at all. It just happened. And he's left just wrecked from it. And yeah.
She was literally supposed to meet him at the train station to catch one of the last trains out of France before the Germans occupied Paris.
Yeah. And this message was something he didn't see coming at all, I would imagine, because he's shocked when it finally happens. And so he leaves. He tries to pick up his life. He has no idea why she left him. So now he's just left to wander, a little bit grumpy, but he's really done a lot to put his life back together. He has this place. He's keeping himself busy. This is a classic situation of anybody who's been in a breakup or had this kind of, especially in your teenage years, like you try to put your life back together again. And I could really kind of get a kind of sense of that. Like Rick, he's doing what he needs to do. He's getting busy. He's moving on, and he won't let the song be played anymore. He's closing that chapter in his life. And even though he's moving on and he's no longer going through the day-to-day drudgery of these difficult feelings, it's still like an unresolved problem in his deep past because he doesn't know why she left him. And then she comes back into his life suddenly, and he delivers that really great line that's often quoted where he says, like, in all the gin joints and all the places in all the universe, she had to come back into mine. And
Close.
Yeah, close.
In all the gin joints, all the universe, you had to walk into mine.
She had to walk back into mine.
Oh,
now, she doesn't walk into that...
But you learn later, yeah.
She doesn't walk into that gin joint alone now, does she, Jeff?
No. So you wonder...
And to be fair, she doesn't know that it's his place.
Yes. Even though it says Rick's right on the front.
Well, okay. Gary,
that wouldn't be enough to really
Richards
conclude
do you know in
though.
your life?
Yeah.
And we're back after some technical difficulties. So, what the heck were we saying?
I'm talking about, at least last I saw it, it was...
well, so
Elsa didn't walk back alone. Right, she of all the gin joints and all the universe, You had to walk into mine, but she didn't walk
Oh,
back
the world.
in alone.
Oh, the world. It's not the universe. It's the world.
Okay.
Oh, we watch too much
Rick
sci-fi.
does not care
really.
about the gin joint on Mos Eisley. He only cares about Earth, okay?
Okay. But it goes back and forth. First, you realize that she dumped him, and that was so unfair. But then later on, the storyline changes on you, and you learn what her predicament really was, which was, frankly, very understandable. She was married, and she couldn't disclose her marriage to anyone. Her husband is a fugitive and a freedom fighter in a way. He's doing an enormously important work to spread awareness about a very corrupt and evil regime, and so he's doing this really important stuff, and she couldn't tell anyone. She had to keep it a secret for her own safety. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm probably going to jump the gun, so go ahead.
Yeah, so this is where Rick finally figures out that this very unfair thing that happened to him was completely understandable.
Okay, I was waiting for Jeff to say the important part, but he didn't. So it should also be mentioned that during their romance, Elsa thought her husband, Laszlo, was dead.
Yep.
So
yes, that is the key part. She thought he was dead, so she... she was lonely in France. Husband was dead. She was told he was dead. It wasn't that she wondered if he was alive. She was told that he had died. And then later on, after falling in love with Rick, she learns her husband might be alive. And
so how they Jeff sighing because I'm calm off.
No, it's just such a no. You can go ahead. So it's just such a heavy story, and it's such a well written story. Go ahead, BJ.
So right before they make plans to leave France together, she finds out that her husband's alive and that he's actually he's in hiding in France. So she just found out her husband's alive, but as Jeff said before, as for her protection, pretty much no one knows she's married to this guy, so she can't just come out and tell Rick, I'm sorry, I'm actually married. I thought my husband was dead, but he's not. Because
she can't
she's
tell
also
him.
Still very deeply in love with Rick.
Yep, and so in that breakup letter, she can't even tell him what happened. She can't, because she has to keep her relationship completely a secret. And that's the way that it goes. So Rick gets the worst shaft of that anyone could imagine. He falls in love with the girl that leaves him, and she's not even a bad person for doing it because she really had to. But in her point of view, it's this terrible, tragic loss for him. And so once he's moved on from it, she comes right back in, and now he's mixed up in all of these feelings that from this tragic event. And honestly, as much as it is awful that she comes back into his life, maybe there's something positive that came about from it. Because even though he doesn't get the girl...
Well, I think the thing that you're looking for is that the feelings that he had for her before are unresolved, right? It was broken off in such a way that he was never able to fully resolve it, and that's why it hurts so much. Versus what happens to him at the end of the movie, he's able to bring resolution to what he's able to bring a resolution to what he had before, right? He's able to finally close this chapter of his life. And in a way
that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, that's what you gain. He loses everything. He loses his cafe. He loses lots of money. He loses his standing within Casablanca. He was a very influential, popular person. He loses everything in a sense. He walks away with a small amount of money. He probably is a decent amount of money, but he just leaves it all. And what does he gain from it? He gains a resolution to this relationship that he had. That's what he gains out of it in the end. And
Well, at the end, he's not really expecting to leave the situation with anything. He's pretty much expecting to end up in a German concentration camp because he's helping this Elsa's husband Laszlo. What's his first name?
Victor Laszlo.
Victor. Yes. So Victor is wanted by the Gestapo. He has escaped a few times. So by helping them escape, he is expecting to not live very long after that, shall we say, and he only does because the police chief, what's his rank?
Captain.
Prefect, something like that. I don't know. The captain of the French police, who is not French police, Moroccan police, the Casablancan police, local police, who has up until now has kind of played both sides, kind of leaned towards the German side just because he kind of has to. He makes a choice and gives Rick a way out that he wouldn't have gone otherwise.
And you're there is one thing wrong, Jeff. He doesn't walk away with no money. He walks away with 10,000 francs because he won the bet. There was a bet between him and the police chief as to whether or not Victor Laszlo would get away, and because Victor Laszlo gets away, the police chief now owes him 10,000. I think francs. I don't know the exchange rate between francs and dollars at the time or currently even. So, but I imagine it's still a sizable amount.
He also walks away. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, he walks away with that, and then also with a newfound deep relationship. I think that's the origin of the line.
He walks away with the beginning of a beautiful. Walks away at the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yes. That's where that line comes
so many
from.
times. It would work so much better if I hadn't flubbed it.
But it is kind of an interesting relationship because this movie is as much about the relationship between Rick and the police chief as it is about between the relationship between Rick and Rick and Elsa. So
don't know if I would quite go that far.
I don't. Yeah.
Not saying that it's not a romantic relationship. It's more of a friendship, but still, it's as much about their friendship as it is about the romantic relationship between Rick and Elsa.
It's bro love.
It's a
bromance.
It's part of the plot, but the romance, but the relationship between Rick and Elsa is definitely the main event.
No, yes. And I actually think the police captain and Rick are not so much friends as they're more like business acquaintances, but they have a lot of respect for each other. Rick, not so much respect for the captain, though, of Captain Renault, because he knows that Renault is not necessarily a great person. He takes advantage of people. He's not a heroic guy. But
I don't think
he gets
Renault
along.
Thinks he's a good guy because like Renault refers to himself. What was the phrase? I'm just a poor, corrupt official.
Yeah. So
my favorite,
but they work together when they need to. It's more of a business relationship.
My favorite scene or line in the entire movie is at one point the police chief is ordered to shut down Rick's cafe, and so the police chief calls all of his police in and says, "We need to shut this place down." And then he starts screaming out, "I'm shocked to find gambling in such an institution." And then the other person walks up to him and says, "You're winning, sir." And then he says, "Thank you." And then he pockets like a giant wad of cash. It's just like
it is funny.
It is just
it's a clever movie.
It's a very clever, he knows exactly what's going on there, and he's just being like, oh, do I really have to shut it down tonight? Oh. Anyways.
What's his name? Renault is He's not working the Germans because he wants to. He's working the Germans because he basically has to.
Yeah.
But he's basically a guy who's in things for himself.
Yeah.
A poor,
he looks up
official.
He actually has a lot of respect for Rick, I think, because Rick has a way with people that I think he admires, and he wishes he had that same effect. He comments about how Rick is popular in his place, and then how Elsa seems to be quite interested in, or like looks at him in a certain way. So I think he wants to be popular like Rick. And Rick, for some reason, you don't really see him at first. You hear about him. And I think that's one of the ways of building a mystique about a character. Rather than showing the character, you have his employees go around and discuss him and discuss details about him. And you begin to hear more about him rather than seeing him. And it builds a little anticipation for when you finally see him. And he's a guy who's thoughtful, doesn't speak a lot, gets right to the point, and he often has something witty to say, and he's not so much in your face about stuff. When he sees something he doesn't like or doesn't agree with, he just kind of like has a snarky comment that isn't particularly against you, but kind of opens up the idea of why he just like how he feels about it. Like when the Germans are there and they're showing him his file, and he's like, "Do I really have brown eyes?" Like, it's basically he has playful lines when he tries to get his point across. He does it in a way like that. That's just it's just fun. So he's
very unimpressed. I think he's very unimpressed that the Nazis have a dossier on him.
Yeah.
So speaking of, I asked my wife because I couldn't quite
Speaking
tell.
of dossiers, Gary, do you have a dossier?
No. Speaking of Rick, I couldn't quite tell, so I asked my wife if she found Mr. Humphrey Bogart to be a handsome man, and in all honesty, she said no. And I was kind of getting that impression as well. He's like a fairly solidly put together person, but he's not
terribly good looking, but he's charismatic.
Very, very, as she put it, he's got a lot of swagger. Definitely has that. And I kind of agree with that particular assessment, that he is he's not a particularly handsome man, but he definitely has a lot of swagger and a lot of charisma. You're right. So what is it then?
That's not a typical thing, though, that Hollywood will do. They usually put a very good-looking guy in the role of the guy in a romance movie. That seems to be counterintuitive than your standard romance story.
Yeah.
But I think that what's different about Rick, though, is his almost like scarred personality that is also has a lot of comeback lines to it. You could tell that he's been beaten up, and Humphrey Bogart, when he's sitting there and he's feeling terrible about the feelings of his past, he really like takes you into that scene where he's feeling like junk and he's remembering these bittersweet memories, and there's just so much emotional baggage that he feels that also you in the audience get a sense of. And so that's why I think he just, even though he's not the good-looking type, the background around him turns him into this very almost like broken hero, you might describe him as, where he tried to do the right thing, fell in love with the girl, and he got completely his heart torn out and handed to him. And now he's in a mess of a wreck, and now this girl that has jilted him, has caused all of this grief and pain for him, now wants him to help her, and to help her to be with somebody else. It's an enormously complicated dilemma for him.
Well, and to be fair, it turns out to be a pretty complicated pretty complicated dilemma for her too.
That's true. Yeah.
But he puts her, in the end, he puts her back on that plane because he and she will regret it if she stays with him. Maybe not today.
Yeah.
Maybe not tomorrow.
Maybe not tomorrow.
One day she will.
And I feel like the amount of time he needed to decide was very short, because there's a scene where she leans on his shoulder and she says, "I need you to think for both of us." She still loves him, but she also loves her husband, doesn't know what to do. She says, "I need you to think for both of us." And he kind of like turns, and I feel like in that moment, this is me just reading the scene, but I feel like it didn't take him long to figure out exactly what he wanted to do. However, the audience gets tricked. The writer wanted the audience to think that his whole plan all along was to take Elsa and to flee with her and leave Victor Laszlo to be arrested by the Germans. And so, yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead. No, you go.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, to be fair, as far as that goes, it's not just a trick on the audience; it's also on the trick of. It's also a trick on Captain Renault, because he needs Renault to sign these documents for them to be able to get out. So he has to convince Renault that he's gonna give Laszlo over to the Germans and then escape to America with
right. He has
Elsa
to sell him on a plan that he will accept. He wouldn't accept the plan if he said, "Hey, Victor's going to go with his wife and flee." I mean, he would never be able to accept that. He has to keep Victor Laszlo in the city and keep him from escaping. So he tricks him, which is really the only way he could probably get him on the plane, is through tricking him and then switching places with him at the last minute. And that's the complicated story right there. It is so brilliantly well written because the audience gets teased, the characters are lied to, and then things change so rapidly and people go, "Oh no, Rick is now reversing the situation." And then you see Elsa, where she learns that she's not going away with Rick, she's going away with Victor. And just the look in her face where she's surprised. Anyway, the whole thing is great. There's so many twisted feelings. It's like she has these twisted, conflicted feelings for both of them, and she doesn't know what's right. But in the end, she goes with Victor because that's really the place where she needs to be, and Rick does the right thing for her. And I think it's just there's something about just the conflict of feelings at that moment is what really hits the audience and what really makes this movie stand out as one of the great classics in all of film history. I think it's among the greats. It's quite an iconic film. You guys might think differently though, but
I know it's not necessarily Gary's cup of tea, but I really liked it.
Yeah, and like I said, I believe it's a good movie. I just I have to be forced to watch it because I can't be bothered otherwise.
Well, most movies, they're all about the guy getting the girl. That is your atypical romance movie where the guy goes through this big long ordeal. Eventually he gets the girl, or the girl eventually gets the guy, whichever viewpoint you pass through along the way in the movie. That's a typical romance movie. But this one is weird. It's a movie where the guy does the right thing for the girl and ends up with nothing, but then gets what you as the audience have to figure out what he gets from all that, which is probably some sort of rest for his soul and going through his life, having done the right thing, which is something that Rick in the end always seems to do. Even though he looks out for himself only, but eventually he does the right thing when the thing, when the time comes, when stress comes in, where things are have high stakes. Go ahead, BJ. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm just, after 30-something episodes, I'm starting to notice I have a awful habit of starting to interject before you finish your thoughts.
No,
So
no, that's fine.
I apologize retrospectively for the past year or so. But yeah, at the very least, if he doesn't get anything else, he gets closure.
Yes. In a more closure on his terms, as opposed to closure on anybody else's terms. So he can move on finally.
He becomes
Resistance fighter?
Words. English.
Resistance fighter in Africa or something like that?
No. He is that's sound my brain derailing.
I don't know
never
what
mind,
word you're
carry on.
looking for.
I don't know either, apparently. There
Guess
it goes.
BJ's next
Whoosh.
word. This is the game we're playing. I don't know, but you actually don't really know what he does, but it does give you kind of like a broad explanation of he goes with the captain and they go off to do more good things and fight for the cause that they both believe in. The captain says, watching you do these things has kind of made some changes in me. Even though the captain kind of just does what he wants and he takes advantage of people a lot, he's still deep down somewhere. I think he's probably very patriotic towards his own identity as a Frenchman. And
go ahead. So, at the end, the captain he has so Rick shoots the German officer that's been chasing Victor, and he does it in front of Renault. So the French captain has a chance to turn him in and likely advance his career, but instead he covers it up. So in the end, he does make the choice to be if not a good person, at least a better person. But
yeah, at least a better person.
So
now, if he was alive today, this French captain, if he was around today, he would be under serious problems from his escapades, because this is a unique time in history where there wasn't as much oversight as there should have been, and so he can be a corrupt politician, a corrupt official, not a politician, a corrupt government official, but I mean, the things he does is definitely something that would land you in a lot of trouble in most places today.
Yeah.
Casablanca is by and large a fairly lawless place. I mean,
that's what it's presented as, yes.
Like, pretty much everyone knows who's in charge of the black market and all that, and he's a well-respected person.
Nice.
He was like, oh yeah, that guy over there, he runs the black market, he can get you what you want.
He runs the second nicest club in the entire city. Yep. So, having said all that...
you're talking about Senior Ferrari.
Yeah.
I probably need to be heading out here soon. I got celebrations and things to do. Things up. We got to start wrapping things up. So,
Gary is celebrating the fact he's survived another podcast with us, and that is wife didn't get more mad at him over last episode.
Hopefully. So
hopefully,
yeah.
Celebrating. She's listened to it. I assume she asked for an apology, so I assume she watched it.
Well, no, but I was saying, hopefully she doesn't get mad about this one as well. Probably won't.
I can't think of anything you would have said to upset her, but anyway. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you guys, are you glad that you watched it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Could you make me
discussion?
Am I going to go and sit down and watch this movie again in the near or far future without somebody telling me I have to go watch it? Probably not. It's one of the things you're going to have to
Gary
say, Gary, you have to
on
go.
His cup of tea.
Yeah, you have to tell me I have to go watch it, and then I'm going to go watch it, and I'm going to enjoy it, but you have to tell me I have to go watch it. That's kind of the name of the game.
Join us next week for Casablanca Round 2. Deep dive. Anyway, so here comes the most dangerous part of the episode. Gentlemen, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Yeah, BJ, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts was that I liked it. Did I already say
It
that?
was good. Good movie. Yeah.
Maybe not as interesting as some of the other plans we had for Valentine's Day, but I'm glad I finally watched it. I won't say what our other plans were in case they come to pass some other time.
Okay.
Yep.
I can sense Gary over at his house just violently shaking his head. Nope, 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 nope. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Yep. I think there's something about this movie that makes that's the reason why people have watched it so much, talked about it, they've referenced it, they quote it. Other movies have made all sorts of really great jokes about it. Hot Shots 2 did a whole bunch of spoofing of this movie. That's all really funny. And there's something very special about it, and I think that there's something about a guy doing the right thing for a girl when it's completely, totally not in his favor to do so. And he does it, and he walks away from it. And there's just like a feeling of letting go. It's letting go of something that he wanted more than anything else in his entire life and world. He wanted to be with her more than anything else, yet he let her go. And I think that just had such a powerful impact on the audience that this has become an iconic movie ever since then. And that's the, I guess my takeaway is that doing the right thing for a girl, sometimes as a man, you just have to do it. And Rick did it, and he showed that he could do something. He could do what was, he cared for her so much that he was willing to let her go. And there's a very deep meaning to that, and I don't think I have the words for it, to be honest. But there's something there. So yes, that's my closing thought. Excellent movie.
So you're okay with it here, but not in the end of Big Trouble in Little China.
You really think that's a parallel? He leaves because
no, kind of. I mean, it came to mind. I thought it'd be funny to say, but we're out of time, so we can't do a deep dive on that.
Oh, okay. Aww. All right, Gary. Final thoughts?
I don't have any really other final thoughts.
Do we need another history lesson from?
I will say, okay. I will say in Gary's defense that I find myself not more often than not when I watch or read something that's defined as a classic, I find I often don't like it. So I won't say just because something is considered a classic that's something you must like, because yes, hi, I'm BJ. I'm the one that didn't like Doctor Strangelove or The Burbs, which is apparently a classic according to everyone else I talk to. Bunch of weirdos. But yes, I recommend it. Jeff recommends it. Gary respects it, but not necessarily recommends it. Is that more or less what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anything else? Going once? Going twice? Okay, so that was the Wandering Tangent podcast. Hope you enjoy. Lose my voice at the 10th hour. Okay, I can talk again. Here we go. So that was the Wandering Tangent podcast. Hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you, Jeff and gary, for joining me. We'll see everyone next time for whatever it is we're talking about. See you then.
Bye.
Here's looking at you, kid.